Something feels rotten in Hollywood, and it's not just the plastic smiles flashing on red carpets. Enter Brandon Sklenar. Chances are, you barely registered him and it ends with us. He played Atlas, a sideline love interest with maybe 5 minutes of screen time. Yet somehow, he's now at the center of a controversy far louder than the film itself. And it all traces back to one name, Blake Lively. Yes, that Blake Lively. According to multiple reports, she leveraged her off-camera influence to seize control of the project from Justin Baldoni, the film's original director and creative driver. Sources say she clawed away creative authority and even sidelined him from press appearances tied to his own movie. And that was only the beginning. She didn't operate solo. Insiders claim Brandon was quietly positioned like a chess piece, guided, nudged, and molded into a loyal spokesperson. Despite barely sharing scenes with Blake, Brandon suddenly surfaced online with a carefully worded Instagram post, pleading with fans to stop criticizing the film and passionately defending the women behind it. Translation? Lay off Blake. The timing was far from random. Blake was facing mounting backlash, and Brandon's post felt less like a personal statement and more like something lifted straight from a PR playbook. Then, surprise, just weeks later, Brandon landed a role in a Paul Feig project. The same Paul Feig who happens to be close friends with Blake. Coincidence? Unlikely. This wasn't poor judgment. It was orchestration. Blake Lively pulling strings behind the curtain while Brandon performed on cue. And this is where Brandon truly crossed the line. Instead of staying out of it and letting actual decision-makers deal with the fallout, he published a long, emotional Instagram essay in August. It read like a corporate press release disguised as sincerity, full of buzzwords about hope, resilience, and how criticism of the film was somehow an attack on women. It sounded noble until you looked closer, because the backlash had nothing to do with women being targeted. The outrage centered on Blake hijacking a film about domestic violence and then refusing to meaningfully address domestic violence during promotion. Fans weren't confused. They were furious, and rightfully so. Brandon wasn't present for most of the shoot. He didn't witness any of the alleged tension between Blake and Justin Baldoni. In fact, in earlier interviews, he described the set as calm, welcoming, and professional. He praised Justin. He praised the producers. He emphasized how safe the environment felt. So why was he suddenly scolding the public like an insider with all the answers? Because Blake needed cover. That Instagram post didn't protect victims. It shielded Blake's reputation. It reframed criticism as cruelty, shamed people for asking legitimate questions, and conveniently ignored the core issue, Blake rewriting both the film and the narrative around it. Then Brandon made it even more personal. He tacked on an emotional anecdote about a friend whose life was allegedly saved by the book. No names, no evidence, just an emotional hook designed to shut down debate. That's when the audience turned, not out of malice, but because they recognized manipulation. A minor actor trading credibility for access. When the backlash intensified, Brandon acted blindsided. But you don't step into a blaze and act surprised when you get burned. And then came the real explosion. Months later, Brandon escalated things dramatically. Right before the premiere of his next film, one Blake allegedly helped him secure, he posted a screenshot of Blake Lively's CRD complaint, a confidential filing submitted to California's Civil Rights Department. Alongside it, he wrote, "For the love of God, read this." Read what exactly? A misleading document quietly leaked to the press to suggest Justin Baldoni was abusive on set. Let's be clear, this was not a lawsuit. It wasn't public. It was part of a confidential administrative process. But Blake's team leaked it to the New York Times, framing it as damning evidence. No trial, no charges, just a calculated PR strike. And Brandon played his part flawlessly. He shared it, tagged Blake with a heart emoji, posed as a defender of justice. But what he actually did was help spread a manufactured narrative fueled by hearsay, ego, and revenge. The irony? Brandon never witnessed any on-set drama. His scenes were filmed during the earliest, smoothest phase of production. By his own admission, the environment was safe, positive, and joyful. So why was he suddenly portraying Justin as a villain? Because Blake told him to. And instead of telling the truth, Brandon cashed in his silence for a role. Before Blake got in his ear, Brandon openly praised Justin Baldoni. In early interviews, he described working on It Ends With Us as a genuinely joyful experience. He called the set warm and supportive. He credited Justin's vision and intention. That's not speculation. That's Brandon on camera. Then everything flipped. He unfollowed Justin, reposted Blake's legal filing, floated unverified claims, including one where he alleged Justin said, "I can't say anything or I'll get canceled." That line even made its way into Blake's deposition. Problem is, it never happened. Under oath, Justin denied ever saying it. Multiple witnesses backed him up, and Brandon never even confronted Justin directly. Instead, he whispered the allegation to Jenny Slate, who passed it along to Blake's legal team. That's not courage. That's betrayal. Brandon could have stayed neutral. Others did. Hassan Minhaj, also part of the cast, publicly said he saw nothing wrong. No chaos, no misconduct, just professionals doing their jobs. But Brandon saw a ladder and climbed it, stepping on Justin in the process. Now he's upset about backlash. Spare us. He reposted confidential material. He sided publicly with Blake. He painted himself as a hero. And his reward? A role in The Housemaid, directed by Blake's close friend Paul Feig. Hollywood payback, plain and simple. Not earned by talent, earned by loyalty. And then karma showed up fast. The New York Times reviewed The Housemaid and absolutely torched Brandon's performance. They called him generically attractive, indistinct, and painfully bland. That's the industry's death sentence. You can recover from a flop. You can survive bad press. But being labeled forgettable? That sticks. Even during his character's big twist, critics said the moment landed flat. No presence. No depth. Just a good-looking face delivering lifeless lines. After all that scheming, this was the payoff. And notice who didn't come rushing to defend him. Not Blake, not Ryan Reynolds, not Paul Feig. Brandon burned every bridge he had for a role he couldn't carry. Hollywood noticed. The man who claimed he just wanted to spread kindness is now being dragged in his own comment section. Because when your loyalty is fake, the spotlight doesn't warm you, it scorches. And let's be clear, this story isn't really about Brandon Sklenar. He's just the messenger. The architect of this mess is Blake Lively. She didn't simply star in It Ends With Us. She steamrolled it. From the moment she joined, insiders say she demanded rewrites, seized creative authority, and iced out Justin Baldoni. She wasn't a producer. She didn't own the story, but she acted like she ran everything. Fans noticed. Critics noticed. Justin stayed quiet and professional while Blake turned the press tour into a solo act. The man who shepherded the film from day one was suddenly erased, absent from interviews, scrubbed from conversations. Why? Because Blake made it happen. When questions started surfacing online, she didn't offer transparency. She chose silence, then strategy. That's when Brandon posted. That's when the CRD complaint surfaced in the New York Times. That's when Ryan Reynolds launched mocking ad campaigns targeting anyone who challenged their narrative. This wasn't spin. It was a calculated takedown of a man who refused to surrender control. And then Ryan entered the picture. While Blake worked behind the scenes, Ryan publicly mocked vulnerable people for profit. Kristen Cabot, the HR exec humiliated after a Coldplay kiss cam incident, had her life turned upside down. Threats, paparazzi, terrified kids. And Ryan? He turned it into marketing content, parodying her trauma to sell his brand. Blake smiled along. Kristen later called out Blake and Gwyneth Paltrow's empowerment brand as hollow. She was right. Ryan repeated the pattern with Matthew Lillard. Then again with Justin Baldoni, creating the nice pool parody after the lawsuit broke. This is his move. Wait until someone's vulnerable, then monetize their pain. It's not comedy. It's cruelty. Together, Blake and Ryan aren't Hollywood's golden couple. They're its most polished bullies. A year ago, Blake filed a confidential complaint with California's Civil Rights Department accusing Justin Baldoni of harassment. 2 days later, the New York Times ran a perfectly timed expose. It looked explosive until you realized it wasn't a lawsuit at all. It was never meant to be public. But it was leaked anyway, padded with loaded language, stripped of context, designed to imply guilt where none existed. No charges, no witnesses, no case. Even cast members described the set as calm and respectful. So why did Blake do it? Because Justin wouldn't let her take over. She turned a creative dispute into a weaponized scandal, hoping public opinion would finish the job. It damaged Justin deeply, not through facts, but through narrative warfare. Now the mask is slipping. Insiders are calling Blake and Ryan radioactive. Producers are wary. Colleagues are distancing themselves. Fans are waking up to the hypocrisy, the fake feminism, the selective outrage, the virtue signaling. They preach kindness while punching down, sell empowerment while silencing dissent. Hollywood sees it now. Blake thought she could rewrite the ending. But this isn't a movie. The truth always comes out. And the curtain is finally up.